you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks, this is Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Doing there, legacies that makes official. Welcome to the show. For 16 years and 28 episodes, we've been bringing the oldest living podcast that is still broadcasting on a daily basis. 4 times a week, but we do 3 shows a day, so that's a lot. And we're old, so that's all we can handle. Anyways, go to Goodreads.com /Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com /Chris Voss. Chris Voss won the TikTok and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book success. She's on the show with us today. Her latest book just got revised and updated January 20th, 2026. It is entitled Across the Creek, Buried Legacy by Kaaren Terry. We're going to get into it with her insights, and find out why her books are so cool and why you should buy this one and the next few coming up. If there's few, I know there's at least one, I've been told. Kaaren Terry is a San Diego native. She has deep roots in her hometown. She and her husband relocated to Julian, California, a historic gold mining town where they lived for 20 years. Surrounded by nature, she experienced the contrast between rural life and city commuting. With a degree in graphic design, she nurtured her creativity while embracing various roles, including mother, grocery clerk, glass artist, and real estate broker. Her passion for understanding people fuels her storytelling. Inspired by her life experiences and the individuals she has encountered, Kaaren invites readers on a captivating journey in her book, Across the Creek. Welcome to the show. How are you, Kaaren?
Doing fine and feeling wonderful because you called me young.
We're all young at heart, right?
Yeah, I definitely am.
Yeah.
My body's defying that.
I mean, we might both be 29, but we're still young kids at heart.
Yeah. I'm never going to grow up, I say to everyone.
You and me. That's why.
And they just roll their eyes.
Yeah, I get a lot of that from ex-girlfriends. That whole Peter Pan thing. But I'm happy and they're not. Anyway, so Kaaren, give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me with my name, Kaaren Terry. That's 2 A's in Kaaren, KAARENTERRY.com. I have a webpage. You can do reviews. You can buy directly from there or go to Amazon. And I just wish everyone would communicate with me and let me know what they think about their own writing or what they like to read. And I'm just, start a communication going.
This book, Across the Creek, Buried Legacy. Give us a 30,000 overview. What's in the book?
I'm not good at elevator pitches, but because I don't have a real good ability to memorize anything. Basically, it's a couple who meet late in life. It's their second marriages. They moved to this little historic town because they wanted always to live in the mountains. And all of a sudden, a disaster strikes when they want to build a pond and a waterfall, and a skeleton is uncovered.
Oh.
And so, of course, the news media gets involved and the police and all the looky-loos, because there's not much to do in Julian but go to anything that's happening. And on the TV then, the great-grandson of the buried man discovers that it must be his grandfather.
Oh.
And so now he's out to find out more about his past, family roots, and he also heard as a child from his grandmother that his grandfather had buried gold coins on the property because the old cedar mill had once stood there.
Oh.
And it's basically the problems with him stalking them, things happening, and the wife's husband thinks she's like crazy and overreacting, and he's a doubter. So there's that dynamic, plus the dynamic of impending despair and what's going to happen. Anyway, it's really quite how life really is up there. But then, of course, we threw in this element of the bad guy to make the story and make it fly. So it's technically historically correct, but fictional also.
Oh, I would just also like to make clear I was not involved in any way with the skeleton this time. All right, so judge says I have to, or my attorney says I have to have plausible deniability at all times. Not sure when it happened, but I do have an alibi for it.
Okay.
Yeah, OJ said I could borrow his. Anyway, let's see. So tell us what went into writing this book. Is this your first book? And what was the proponent that made you want to write it and that good stuff?
Sort of on my bucket list, and I was getting older.
So write a book?
But the main thing is I've always been an avid reader, and I'm always fascinated with what an author can do with words. And so I want to try my hand at that, that kind of thing. And I'm always told that, like I always have to put in a disclaimer in there, I digress because I love to tell a story. And it just sort of unfolded, and it kind of changed directions when I did research and found out, there was never a stagecoach robbery of gold in Julian ever. I found that out, and got to go down another trail, But in there, I found out about a whole sect of Orthodox Jews from Russia migrated to LA, then ended up in Mexico, but they worked in Julian in the lumber mills, and that kind of And then lo and behold, I'm living on a piece of property that once had the lumber mill.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
so like I say, so it's historically correct, but we threw in all the drama and the bad guy.
So you call it maybe historical fiction then?
Yeah, I get theoretically, maybe technically, but it's written contemporarily, like it happened, now, and And
would you call it like a mystery or a horror? Or
I would say kind of a mystery thriller, maybe, crime drama. There's like different words for the same genre kind of thing. Yeah.
And tell us about the
suspense.
Tell us about the protagonist. What's the protagonist doing in the book, and maybe a little bit of what they're up to.
It starts off that he's walking along the Embarcadero during Easter break, but he's basically, his profession is pickpocket. And also he likes to think of himself as a cat burglar. He comes back to San Diego. He travels all around, of course, trying to dodge, the being incarcerated, we're getting busted, so to speak.
And I'm doing that
so
now.
And anyway, so he ends up and starts off that way, and you see him that way, and then you find him, he's watching. His one thing he does every evening in a motel is watch the 11 o'clock news, because that opens up to what's going on, where the tourists are going to be, how soon the sun's going to come out, and all that sort of thing.
He's a professional at pickpocket.
He's a very severe, detailed, horrible person, but very skilled at being horrible.
So that sounds like what do they call those people? The predators, maybe.
Yeah, in a way, he sort of is. And
sociopaths, I think.
Yeah, definitely a sociopath. But then also I go into like his history of his family life and how he kind of evolved into that kind of a person. But then you always have to say there is always choices we make, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people have horrible childhoods and do not become like he did. So.
Yeah. I should work on that. Anyway, I'll talk to my therapist. Thanks for reminding me. He's been calling me. He wants to do a lobotomy and says it's the only thing that'll help at this point. He's probably right. So
sometimes I think it would be nice to be so stupid you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. You should go on Twitter. There's lots of people over there like that. They need to rename it Dunning-Kruger disease. So I would certainly have to dress up in a costume because I would go incognito. Yeah. I'm just wondering. I just wear the Chris Voss show hat as a costume, and they go, "There he is." In the book, now you possibly or do have a sequel coming up, or is there more than 2 books coming?
Yeah, I'm currently finishing book 4. Book 2 is about to be launched.
Okay.
And that one is just sort of an evolution, like the next year, starting off with the same, protagonist and her husband. And she has a coworker who comes to stay and then for the weekend. And she's doesn't like change, anal retentive, OCD, all that kind of stuff. Lives with her mother and she's in her 40s, all those things. And anyway, and then her, and he used the word, shit happens. So,
shit happens. Welcome to the world.
Yeah. And it's about, and then during that time of the book, there is the Cedar Fire, which was 2003 in California.
Oh.
And of course, everyone in Julian was involved in that. And, a huge percentage of the people lost their...
The earthquake hit up there?
Pardon?
The earthquake hit up there?
We get a lot of earthquakes up there, yeah. But this was a wildfire, so yeah.
Okay, yeah. They get those all over California, huh?
Yeah, big time. And that at the time we had for years up till this one up in L.A. a year ago, we had the big claim to fame to be the biggest. I mean, San Diego County. I'm not talking Julian, but the whole San Diego County. Yeah. But anyway, and it goes
California. They just have seasons. So there's a season of fire and then a season of flooding because the fire wiped all of the brush that would soak up all the
unfortunately, there's too much truth to that.
Yeah. I grew up in California. I remember I would look at the back of cars in the freeway in traffic in the 70s, and you would sometimes see this weird, eerily yellowish orangish reflection of the sun in the back of the window of the car that was maybe in front of you. And there was a certain tint to it that if it was that tint, you're like, oh, there's smoke billowing somewhere in California, and it's not wine prices. I don't know.
Yeah, that's I mean, part of in the book, and don't look to the east because of the orange sky. That.
Oh yeah.
And that thing, and ashes were dropping like snowflakes.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of them are even still on fire. This kind of thing. But anyway, so that was a big part of that book in relation to the coworker that comes to visit. During the fire, and of course,
the seasons of California.
So and that is all historically correct about the fire and everything. Yeah, okay. Of course I. Lived through it. We lost our house, the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you know what that's like firsthand to write about it. Yeah,
it's kind of if I can digress, as I say, I was asking AI, statistics. I can't even say it today on how many acres, how many lives, how many houses, that kind of thing. And so to make sure I had it accurate, and it comes back with this whole thing about. Are you writing about this just because you want to know, the statistics, or is it because you're writing and you want some, we can help you write? So I just answered, the AI Copilot, and I said, for both, I'm a writer. My computer knows I'm a writer. So does AI. Yeah. And it came back with, oh, I'm so sorry you lost your home. That must have been so devastating. Yeah, my AI is talking to me like this.
Wow.
It's got an empathy gene. I think,
Wow.
And I'm going like, wait a minute here. This is not real. It's like I had this aha moment, and it's got everything. It's got my life and my feelings and everything in my computer because I write.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's holding me. It's sort of almost holding me hostage.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah, it was almost scary. You got to say to yourself, that is not real. That's not a real person. That's a program.
Starts telling you things about your life. I don't really think it has empathy, though. It's just messing with you. It's just it's just manipulating with you. It's just
alluding to that it has empathy. So you got it's alluding to the fact.
Yeah.
It wants me to think it's my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then maybe I'll divulge more and it'll have more information about me.
I don't know that I ever trust that empathy thing. That sounds like a trick, but I don't know.
I had a good laugh.
I stay up at night with one eye open, watching for that AI to sneak up on me when I'm sleeping.
Yeah, definitely.
For that. So the characters, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, and some people refuse to use it, but yet every time they pick up their phone, they're using it,
And they're training it. So the characters are going to continue through the series, if I understand that correctly, and develop.
But the original protagonist becomes very secondary.
Oh.
In the second book, because the coworker becomes the protagonist.
Oh.
So it's kind of, but she's in there and in their relationship and all that, but she's secondary. So it moves on from there, kind of falls from there. So
as long as you have somebody leading it.
Yeah. So in each book in this series is it's a little town, and there's the same people crop up, like the deputy, the volunteer firefighter down the street. The lady works at the post office. I mean, everybody knows everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got pretty much the same people cropping up in other books because you still are shopping at the same little grocery store and that kind of thing.
Huh. So you're going to keep it in the same town there the whole time?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, there's San Diego's part of it too, but primarily, living up there. And then of course, after the fire, rebuilding and, and that's part of the third book is, kind of like starting over in your life, that kind of thing, and dealing with the county and building permits and, just stuff that, it's frustrating and that kind of thing, how do you fight City Hall kind of thing.
California's got a lot of those regulations. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think it took Bill Maher like 7 years to put up a solar thing on an outhouse or something back. He had a storage unit he had in the back of his yard. It took like 7 years to get all the qualifications. And he's going solar too. So it's supposed to be, good for the environment.
Mm-hmm. We ran into that because we wanted to put up a wind generator.
Oh, really? Some people say they give you cancer, but I'm not sure we believe those folks.
I don't know about that one, but anything to cut the electric bill because our electric is horrible here in Southern California.
Yeah,
anyway, but the thing was we had to hire somebody that cost $1,800 to come out and do a sound check on how many decibels.
What?
But meanwhile, the city of Vista, which is just like a suburb, kind of north San Diego, they were no problem. They were putting them in everywhere.
Wow.
No, this is not a giant one. This is just, kind of home use one for your own thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's typical.
Yeah.
Of how, like in the county, and we lived on 5 acres and our neighbor had 200 acres, kind of thing.
Oh,
so it's not like we're going to be polluting the world,
Yeah.
But it might be too noisy.
Yeah, 200 acres, it's good to have those neighbors far away. I wish we have good neighbors, so there you go.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, that's a beautiful ranch.
They like my dogs, so every time they get out, they help me chase them down. I have huskies. So I like my neighbors. My dogs do too. Let's see. Now, in the book, how do your characters come to you, and how do you develop them? Some people have characters that just kind of haunt them, kind of like schizophrenia, and they're just always there going, hey, you need to write this down, buddy. And then some people have to kind of do the work. And
my first antagonist, the pickpocket / cat burglar. And when I was writing and getting into the drama of, if that's the term, of how he's stalking the couple and this kind of thing. And I just was like having this anxious, almost like an anxiety attack, which is not like me. And finally I realized, it's that damn Mike, that was his, name in the book. And I finally had to say to myself, you created him. You have the power to do whatever you want with him.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was like almost, oh, wow, I can do that. I can just, annihilate that SOB, I mean.
I have the power. Yeah, it's funny. We have a pretty prolific author on the show. She has lots of books, I think about 70 or something like that. And she's in her 80s now. She comes on the show, 80s or 90s. She comes on the show fairly regularly. and she's quite spry. She insists on running the show, and it's one of the few times I give up hosting. But she's delightful as hell, and I think she's been on about 7 or 8 times. But if you ever make her angry, she has great stories in life about someone in real life who made her angry. She'll kill you off in her book. She'll put you in her book and then kill you off in a horrible death. So she gets revenge.
Yes, that's my second book. We had trouble with the neighbor big time.
Oh.
And anyway, and so he's my antagonist in the second book.
That's why I write books. Kill off all my enemies. Put them through.
I saw a t-shirt on the internet the other week. It said, "Careful, or you become the next character in my next novel."
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that's yeah. Because what I do, I watch people. I try to get their body reactions or motions or whatever, so a little tick, so that I could write that his hand twitched or his whatever, that kind of thing, to make give it a little emphasis to what because and from your point of view, that how do you know what he's thinking? You don't know what he's thinking. You just know that his hand's twitching, that kind of thing. And mine are kind of in the format that the chapters have the chapter has a name, but then it has whose point of view it is. Oh. So you can see a situation from the protagonist, the antagonist, and sometimes just, like the other characters in the book, 3 different viewpoints of the same situation. Of course, they're all different because everybody reacts differently, so that's always kind of fun. But people, but, it kind of conjures up evil when someone does you in, because that, and with the power of the pen, you can get them. Change the names, right, to protect yourself. But yes,
I'm working on a book like right now then for my public enemies, and it's the same person at Starbucks who doesn't make my chai latte correctly, and I just keep murdering them over and over again or something.
And that they're doing this deliberately, but you can't prove it.
Of course they are. Because everyone knows those Starbucks, what do they call them? The coffee people?
Baristas or something?
Baristas. They're inherently evil. Anyway, no, they're not. They're wonderful people. Don't write me, folks. I love Starbucks and Starbucks employees. Maybe not Starbucks so much itself, but the employees are nice, and they're trying really hard there to have a union, and good for them. So as we go out, what's the anticipated timeline for the next book to come out?
I'm still correcting the corrections of the corrections of the corrections on this is in the formatting.
You mean editing?
Yeah, editing. Yeah. That's my. I can turn out a book probably theoretically a month or 2, but it takes me like a year to get it polished up and honed down and kind of rewritten and et cetera, et cetera. But so I'm jealous of all those famous authors who have a whole crew of people who will do that for them.
Yeah, editing's a pain in the butt.
And I'm not good at it, and I'm visually handicapped, and it's just it's tedious. Yes.
Yeah, it really is tedious. It's best to hire an editor that's separate from yourself to do that if you can.
I could spend an hour on your show talking about an editor that I did hire, but we won't go there. She should be in my next book.
Wow, put her on the spit.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
A bad editor or book representative that will resonate with any author, I think, at this point. Everyone's had some sort of experience, but editing's crazy, because no matter how many times you go through it, you'll still find something. You'll still find some word.
Oh, it's so subjective. It's because you could do could or would, and that'll send it kind of in a different road and that kind of thing. Where I was a glass artist for years, and I would as I'm making a stained glass window or something, I would say, now the next window I make like this, I'm going to do, and I knew I was not going to make another one, you know what I mean? But I never had it the way I quite wanted it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, then for a while I did bookkeeping, and I'm going, I like this because if it comes out to 0 and everything balances, I got it. This wasn't subjective, but anything creative is so subjective.
Oh, yeah. Even after editing, like I remember sitting down and trying to do the audiobook, I was reading it out loud, and I'm like, this reads completely different out loud than it does in my head. And I'm like, I wouldn't. Who the hell wrote this? Oh, I did. It just sounded more weird coming out. Some of the phrases that are used, or sometimes you just find that word that it escapes you, and you're just like, that was supposed to be continuity. But I think you probably do that through thinking of.
Yeah, that was part of the problem. The editor, other than taking too long and too much money, but when I would read it back, she would put in words that were not my voice at all.
Yeah, it's got to have your voice.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like we're both speaking English, but it was.
Yeah.
I guess she's from Southern California too, so I shouldn't say that. But anyway, we kind of have our own lingo, that kind of thing. But I go, no, I wouldn't say it like that. Oh, no, I don't like that word. And AI, when I do some kind of editing with AI, they'll use words like, oh, come on. Like I got one program that goes, because the first book's all about the great grandfather, right? The skeleton. And so every time it comes back and I'm supposed to do successful grandfather, not great grandfather, that's programmed in for that. Come on now, give me a break. You're supposed to be helping me here, not having me, try to override what you think I should be doing, kind of thing. Yeah.
If you're an aspiring author out there, the editing is really important because it has to preserve your voice. One of the things I had when I edited my book, or when I got to that stage, was I found someone who could preserve my voice. And it turns out it was someone who knew me very well. And they'd heard enough of my bullshit over 30, 40 years that they knew my vernacular, I suppose. And so they were writing in my voice. And I didn't really thought about it much, but then I announced on Facebook that, we're in the editing phase and editor's going to start doing it. I had all these friends that are, they're in the author space, and some of them are professional editors. And so a bunch of them wrote me, and I go, yeah, I think I'm fine. But I had one person, they just really pestered me. And it's a wonderful gal who's a friend of mine for a lot of years there on the Facebook. And so finally I just said, okay, look, here's a page out of the book. If you think you can do a better job than the editor that I have, knock yourself out. Let's see what it looks like. And I never really, the stuff I was getting back from editing was in my voice. I'm like, okay, yeah, it sounds like me. It's not changed. And I never really knew how important that was. And then she sent me a page or two of edits that I'd given her. And then I realized how important it is to preserve your voice. Because she literally wrote in her voice, and she wrote in a feminine vernacular that was more emotional, and she changed my words too. But when you read it, you could hear a woman speaking it instead of a man. And it was a business book, so that doesn't work well.
Yeah, that doesn't fly too good.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a novel and you're like, well, it's a woman character. And so that's when I had this glaring side-by-side comparison of editing in your voice. So if you're out there, aspiring authors, real important to find someone who can preserve your voice and just edit in your vernacular. I don't even know if vernacular is the right word for that, but I flunked second grade, folks. Give me a break. So as we go out, pitch people on where they can pick up the book, .coms, where they can get to know you better, et cetera, et cetera.
Go to my webpage at KarenTerry.com. That's Karen with 2 A's. Or you can get it directly from either Amazon or Audible. We have it in Audible. And please do. I think I've gotten great, feedback from my readers, and they seem to like it. Of course, I like it. I'm judgmental. And if I can make you laugh and get all uptight and cry a little, then I have really succeeded.
That's what I tell all my girlfriends. Let's see. So thank you very much for coming to the show, Karen. I
enjoyed it very much.
Thank you. We enjoyed it too. Order up the book wherever fine books are sold, folks. Across the Creek, Buried Legacy, out January 20th, 2026. It's the latest updated version. If you find other versions there on the Amazonian, and then watch for the upcoming releases of the series. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and all those other crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
All right, there we go. Great job.